Welcome to Oddly Me. I'm Kimberly, and today I'm going to tell you my story. This is my miscarriage story. It's not something I thought I would ever share publicly, but I do think it will help me therapeutic-wise. And I do think that as a girl, all your life you receive information about hitting puberty, getting your period, pregnancy, and even what to expect when pregnant. But no one ever openly talks about miscarriage. And after going through what I did, I found it surprising how many women that I knew personally that acknowledged their miscarriage when they found out about mine. And I thought it was really sad that we don't talk about miscarriage, publicly and more. They say that it's 1 in 4 pregnancies, that it can be upwards between 10 to 20% of all pregnancies end in miscarriage. And I thought, well, that's quite sad that it is that high and it is that common, and we don't talk about it. You're not prepared for it when it happens to you. You think it only happens to other women and that it won't happen to you, because that was my mindset, and it did. So let's start my story. In the beginning, we had taken a break from trying because the stress had gotten to us, and we weren't preventing pregnancy, but we weren't calculating and taking ovulation tests. We just took a breather, and lo and behold, that's when it happened. I found out I was pregnant on a Wednesday, and because I had actually missed my period and took a chance on using my very last digital pregnancy test, and if you're from Canada, you know how expensive those digital pregnancy tests are, and I didn't want to waste it because I didn't think I was pregnant. I thought it was just stress that had delayed my period. But I was pregnant. I did have a doctor's appointment already booked for the following Friday, where I then had blood work that confirmed my HCG levels were exactly where they were supposed to be for how far along I was. I then went probably 2 weeks fine. I did suffer really bad morning sickness, breast tenderness, and just being exhausted. And then, and food aversion. Certain smells and certain foods I had no desire to be near, which was kind of difficult at work and just out. So probably a few weeks later, I noticed that I started to have brown spotting when I went to the bathroom. It was light brown, beige, but in all the books and all the forums, it's not okay, it's not normal, but it is very common. And the reason for that is it's usually older blood, so it's okay. It can be from implantation bleeding, or it can just be from your uterus stretching and the placenta growing. I have a very sensitive uterus. I just assumed that's what it was. I wasn't too concerned. The following week, I started to actually, the brown spotting turned into pink. By the end of the week, it turned into a little bit of blood. I also started to have mild menstrual cramps. So I went to my doctors and told him. He thought that I was miscarrying, or I had, or was about to. I was in that bracket. So I went off for an ultrasound, where I then, it was the hardest ultrasound I ever had to go through. I probably cried for most of it. And then found out that my baby still had a heartbeat. So things were good. My baby had a heartbeat. So I was probably just that small percentage of women that do spot throughout their pregnancy, and everything was okay. By the end of that day, which was a Monday, my doctor did call me and requested that I go on to strict bed rest to give the baby a chance, because there was a heartbeat. Throughout that week, I was on strict bed rest. I still spotted the entire week. The cramping was off and on mildly throughout the week. By the following Sunday night, I started to have bright red blood. Not a good sign. So that Monday morning, I called my doctor. He said, not to come to his office, go straight to the hospital, to the ER. The reason for that is my family physician is a small practice. It's just a small practice in a very small town. He doesn't have the tests, the equipment, and any specialists in the building. So for me to go to the local city, to our ER, I would be able to get all the blood, urine test, ultrasound, and any like specialist OBGYN or whatever I needed there. So I went to the ER, very long day because it wasn't an emergency. When you're in the ER, there's emergencies. And I was okay with that. I respected other people that were there for other issues. So I had an ultrasound. It was the longest ultrasound I've ever had. It started out abdominally, which I knew they weren't going to see anything because I have a tilted uterus. So we then had to go vaginal ultrasound, which isn't fun, especially when you're going through all this. It was very long. She was in there for a very long time, which I knew wasn't a good sign because I felt like she was really looking. The technician won't say anything to you, so you have to wait for the doctor. The doctor's very busy, so I had to wait a couple hours to see the doctor. And then the nurse came and got me and took me into a private room. I should have known when she took me to a private room that the news wasn't going to be good. You try to prepare yourself for that news, but there's always a bit of hope that you've worked yourself up for nothing, that you've been a negative Nancy, that you're just being pessimistic, and that your brain just goes to the worst thoughts. There's a small hope that you're wrong. I tried to prepare myself for the worst news, and by that point of bleeding for a week, there's a bit of me that knew. But I was hoping for a miracle. I prayed really hard, and I didn't want to be 1 in 4. Especially since I had known that my baby had had a heartbeat the week before. The doctor, bless her heart, she was a really nice ER doctor, and I understand her job was hard. She told me that I didn't have a fetal heartbeat and that the baby was gone. I thought I had prepared myself for that news. But when you want something really bad and you've tried for a really long time, it's still a blow. Because I wasn't in extreme pain, my stomach hadn't hardened, and I wasn't bleeding heavy. I didn't have a temperature. My blood pressure was okay. That they chose not to give me a D&C, that I would just pass my baby with a natural miscarriage. I was okay with this because at this point, I was over the hospital. I didn't want to be there. I just wanted to go home and have some quiet time. I was sent home with instructions of things to look out for: fever, heavy bleeding, stuff like that. The next day at home alone, I still on bed rest, just dealing with everything. I had gotten really thirsty, so I went to the kitchen to get a drink. While I was there, I started to cramp really bad. One of the things that I had been asked numerous times between doctors' offices, ultrasounds, and the hospital was, did I have any stomach cramps? I thought that when you miscarried, you would have menstrual cramps and stomach cramps, stomach tightening. I was having menstrual cramps, and I was having bowel cramps. I felt like I might have to go to the bathroom. I felt kind of ill in that area, but my stomach was fine. So this started to happen while I was getting a drink, and I took a moment and just breathed and thought, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom because I think I might have to have a bowel movement. When I got to the bathroom, as soon as I went to sit, I had my miscarriage. It was really hard because once again I was faced with the reality that I lost my baby. But it happened. I then, I've heard that you can bleed for about 4 weeks after you miscarry. I was fortunate that because I had bled for technically 2 weeks prior, that once I miscarried, I only bled for about a week after. The week prior to my miscarry, I had had lots of blood clots and lots of blood. So the miscarriage, when it finally happened, really was the end of it. And the bleeding tapered off. I wasn't in a lot of extreme pain. I was a little shaky. I think shock played a part of that. Exhausted, emotionally exhausted, mentally exhausted. I know that if you've ever gone through one or you're going through one, it's not easy. I hope this video helps. I do think that putting myself out there and sharing may open the door, that we'll talk about it more, that as a society, as women, we will share our stories more. The dog knows I'm upset. I do have hope, and I still have the dream that I will someday have a baby successfully and healthy. As of right now, I'm still healing, I'm still grieving, and I'm still mourning. I know it will get easier, and I know I will move on, but I will never forget. I was 8 weeks and 1 day pregnant when I lost my baby. I know that people don't know what to say when you tell them. But telling somebody when they've just lost their baby that it's common, and that it happens, and that it's 1 in 4, it's 20%. It doesn't make us feel any better. Because regardless of the numbers, we lost our baby. And it may be common, but it's not talked about. So it's really hard to feel that there's a commonality between what you've just went through with other people. Because you feel alone. You feel like you're 1 in a million. You feel loss. It's not like stubbing your toe. You have hopes and you have dreams of having a baby. You picture yourself holding your baby. You think about your future. You mark the dates on the calendar. You take bump shots of your belly. You look at things at the store, you shop, you plan. And in one moment, it's done. We will try again. It won't be easy. This will be a fear that I will have the next time I have a positive pregnancy test. I will fear that I will go through this again. I'm not alone. And if you've miscarried or are miscarrying or miscarry in the future, you're not alone either. Your heart will break. You will feel guilt. You will feel anger. You will feel sadness like you've not felt before. But the days get easier. I promise. They've gotten easier for me. And one day, maybe I won't shed tears when I talk about it. Maybe one day my heart won't hurt when I think about it. This is just a speed bump in my life story. And I'm glad I had the courage to share so that maybe I can help somebody out there. My name's Kimberly. I had a miscarriage at 8 weeks and 1 day, and I do not give up hope that I get pregnant again. Thanks for listening. Till next time.